So Chippy was on breakfast this morning, and I think it was Chippy who talked to us. I can't remember whether it was Chippy or was someone I saw talking. I don't. It might have been Kieran actually when we had him on the Sunday night, and it was talking about consultation and working in a bipartisan way. And he said it's not really like that. What they do is they come and tell us what they want to do, and then they want to call it bipartisan. And Chippy talked about the Defence Force spending, and kind of confirmed that on breakfast this morning.
The Prime Minister said that Labor was consulted about this plan. Are you happy with the discussions you had with the government?
I'm not sure I'd call it consultation. They gave us a call about an hour before they announced it. So I'm not sure that after they'd already approved it. I think that might be taking the definition of consultation.
It is actually weird as to why would the national government then say we consulted the opposition when what they did was gave them a heads up? Because consultation is a thought of we talk, they talk. You know, even if we don't come to an agreement, we still have an opportunity to share ideas. Going, hey guys, just so you know, in an hour we're going to say this. Click. I just wonder why National would feel the need to do that. Why would they feel the need to put out there that they've consulted with the other side about what they're going to say? It seems very strange to me because there's nothing wrong with not consulting with them. So that bodes the question: why do they need to say they consulted with them? They didn't need to give them a heads up. They didn't need to do it in a bipartisan way. So why is the reason, what's in it for National to say we consulted with Labor? I don't quite understand it. They don't seem to win anything with it. It just makes them look foolish. Maybe it's just the evidence once again, Chewie, that they're not very good at this. Maybe it's just that.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Takes it a little bit too far. But look, I welcomed the phone call. It was lovely to know what was about to be announced before it was announced.
So if you were to be in government next term, how supportive are you of this plan?
This is the defence plan.
I mean, obviously, where the rubber hits the road is when the budget actually rolls around and we see exactly how much money is going to be put into it. Defence capability plans, when I went back and looked at the 2019 defence capability plan, it was talking about a $20 billion investment over the next decade. There's still, that's 10 budgets, and the same with this defence capability plan. What happens over the next 10 years will depend on the next 10 government budgets, and let's actually see what they come up with when that part of the process really hits reality.
There are currently 3 Navy ships docked as they don't have the personnel at the moment. If we don't have the crew, how do you think this ambitious plan can be achieved?
I mean, look,
didn't you say something about that last night, Drew? They bought like 30 pieces of drivable equipment and they only used 4 of them or something?
Yeah, something. Well, actually, it was a couple of hundred LAVs. Most of them have never left a warehouse in Trentham.
It's a good band though, LAB. I quite like them. They're not bad. Queenstown based.
I mean, look, I've only had a chance to skim read it so far, but one thing that did strike me, and you could probably say this of the 2019 plan as well, I think the personnel aspects of that might be a little bit light. I think we've still got work to do to make sure we're building up the capability, the people capability of our Defence Force, and putting more money into a lot of equipment, is really important, but it is not the total story. We've actually got to invest in our people as well. That was something we recognised before the last election when we put quite a big injection of money into raising salary and wages for those working in our Defence Force, and we know that there's more work to do there too.
So the Labor government raised the salaries and wages of the Defence Force. The national government is putting whatever it is, $1 trillion. Is that right? $1 trillion, something like that, into defence, but none of that is anything to do with increasing of wages.
I just want to clarify my numbers on the LAV because I was massively out, but it's still a foolish amount. So the New Zealand Army originally had 105 of them. They've never been able to fully use them. We recently sold 22 to Chile. There's another 20 available for potential sale, and that's been increased to 30. And that leaves us with 73 on the books. Of course, most of those are sitting in a warehouse. with no crews, with basically being used for spare parts.
Can
So,
we rent one for a weekend? That'd be fun.
Fuck, I would love to.
Are you listening, New Zealand Defence Force? Well, let us come up for a weekend.
Back at the towards the start of the war in Ukraine, I sent an email, a question to, at that point, the New Zealand Minister of Defence, sort of going, hey, these are all sitting here, they're not being used for anything, why don't we donate them to Ukraine? And the answer I got back was that they're not in operational condition.
Right.
They're not in the condition that Ukraine would accept them. They're not ready to go. So why did we buy them?
So they're all up on blocks with their wheels off.
It makes it sound like it, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, this is what I say when I don't have a lot of faith in the government to necessarily make the right decisions for the Defence Force. You know, you can go out and you can buy these big ticket sexy items like, yeah, we need to replace our Navy surface fleet. Cool. Do we have enough sailors to keep them going? Obviously, the answer is not. Oh, we've got all of these armored vehicles in a warehouse. Are we using them? Well, no, because we don't have enough crews for it. And it's like, okay, well, that really sounds like we have a personnel problem. And so in that case, is it paying conditions? Is it career path? Is it how attractive that career is to people? You know, that seems to be a problem that you want to solve. And that could be, look, here's your accommodations at Waiouru. It's a shed that we built in the 40s, and we've never put insulation in it. You'll be living in this for 2 years. You know, it's that sort of thing. So is that going to be part of that, or is this the government just going, yeah, fuck, we love the military, makes us like it's kind of law and ordery? Yeah, we'll fucking do that. Money. Yeah, it's law and order adjacent. It's got the big shooting guns. So I just want someone to make sensible decisions, to sort of go, well, look, we can see that the way the world is going, and it's a big focus on drones, so we're going to do that. So that we need technically minded people. We want to have that. There's no point, like, and that comment that we hear from Judith Collins that we played last night was talking about like people launching ballistic missiles. If someone wants to launch a ballistic missile, there's nothing we can do about it. So don't even bother trying to compete in that space. What space are we competing in? We need to make sure that our defense forces can slot in like a fucking jigsaw puzzle piece into whatever Australia's got going on. That's the best way to spend money.
Indeed. Right, let's get to the next bit. The next bit is talking about the results. We didn't really cover off on this last night, but because you know how we feel about polls mid-season in an election cycle, they don't mean much. The preferred prime minister, interesting, yada, yada, yada. So I do have one thing I want to say to Chippy about this. It's only 60 seconds, him responding about the polls from last night.
The Hipkins, just want to move on to our latest One News poll. Labor dipping slightly to 32%. You're up 3% though as preferred prime minister at 20%. What more work do you need to do?
Well, all the polls since the election show that Labor's support has been increasing since the election. There's a bit of variability in that; they bounce around a little bit. But overall, I'm comfortable that we're getting our support numbers up. We're certainly doing better than we were in the run up to and following the last general election. I know that people want to hear a bit more from us about what we would do differently. It's the nature of the electoral cycle that at this point in the cycle, you're largely commenting on what the government's doing rather than talking about how you would do things differently. But as we head certainly towards the second half of this year and into next year, we'll be talking more about what we will do differently. And I set out earlier in the year that jobs, health and homes are three key priority areas for us that you'll hear more from us on. And I think those are the sorts of things that Kiwis want to hear us talking about.
So there's one thing I want to say to all this. All sounds great to me. It's a good little segment, good, nutshell, jobs, health, homes, great. But it's time for Chippy to stop apologizing. We had to take a year off. We went back and we learned, and we now got it back together. We made some mistakes. It's time for that talk to stop. It's time to stop talking about we weren't good enough at the last election, because the next election is, in 12 months you'll be in the blows. whatever the correct word is, you'll be in the middle of absolutely election season. So it's time now to start going, yep, we're the best group to take this forward. Stop going, yeah, we made a mistake last time. It feels like they're in a transitional period with that, but there was just a little bit of that on the side as well when he was talking in there. So stop it. Yeah, like Jason says, let's go mode. It's time to go. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of things I would say there. Just the language on the chyron there of like Hipkins surges 3%. Still margin of error stuff.
Margin of error.
It's not a surge.
Every result for every part of it.
It's a margin of error. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about this. We'll keep reporting on every poll that comes out, but I'll keep saying the same thing. Trend is the only thing that matters.
Well, and that brings us back to my last clip. It's actually not from breakfast. It's from the TVNZ News tonight, where they were talking about how the country felt about the leaders. I'll give you a preview of probably what the image is going to be on the thumbnail tomorrow, because I know you love it.
What's the caption for that? Ha ha, you're poor.
So this was on One News tonight, last 90 seconds, just talking about how the country thought the leaders were doing.
One News asked voters to rate how they're handling their respective roles. For Christopher Luxon, 40% approve, but 47% disapprove. Approve minus disapprove gives Luxon an approval rating of -7. That's a 2-point drop from when we asked in June last year. For Chris Hipkins, 49% approve, 33% disapprove.
It would be interesting to talk to someone who knows, a pollster or someone who's worked in the industry. Is this sort of common for Prime Minister versus Leader of the Opposition? Does the Prime Minister, no matter who they are, typically get judged more harshly? Because obviously the Prime Minister's a bigger, harder job to do. Leader of the Opposition can basically do whatever they want, say whatever they want. I wonder usually what it would be at like halfway through the first term of whatever government. Is this common? Because I don't think they're saying this. Like, I'd like to know if this is not common, because if this is not common, that speaks to Luxon's leadership. If this is normally the way it is, then it kind of means nothing. Maybe someone can inform me about that if you're watching.
Giving Hipkins an approval rating of +16.
Because the difference between that, if that's not normal, the difference in those numbers is significant. It's a 23% difference. It's huge.
Up 3 points. The difference between the two leaders clear. Christopher Luxon struggling to get cut through. You're the current Prime Minister. Why are they not getting behind you?
All I'd say, Mikey, is I was elected in October 2023. My job's pretty clear, which is to deliver for New Zealanders. That's what this coalition government is doing.
So the question was, why aren't you getting cut through? And the answer was, they hired me. La, la, la.
Communication style doesn't resonate with Kiwis, certainly the ones I'm talking to anyway.
Case in point, this now infamous interview, drawing brutal honesty from Luxon's own MPs.
That particular interview, yes, he could definitely improve on his communication at times like that.
He's really warm, he's really friendly, and I don't see that coming across, say, on the news or on the TV.
It's true, Christopher Luxon resonates better in person.
I was with him on the weekend and he was mobbed.
While Chris Hipkins is performing better now, during the election, he struggled to connect with voters.
I decided after the election, and I said this at the time, I'm going to be myself for the next 3 years, and that's exactly what I'm doing.
So there you go. That was the last bit about leadership. I just thought that tied in nicely to the bit from the polling from this morning. So I mean, like, you know, credit where credit's due. Those national MPs kind of went, yep, he could have done better. Don't very often hear that from an MP. I guess what that shows is that interview was so very, very, very bad that they've decided, look, we can't spin this. Like, I think I've told this idea before. It's like working in radio, especially working in music radio. There's this thing that you don't acknowledge any mistake you make on air unless it's unavoidable. So I started working for More FM and we were playing off CDs. Most stations were using just computers, but we were still using CDs because the bosses like their announcers to be active, you know, not just sit there in front of a computer. And so, in other words, you made a little mistake, you don't bring attention to it, because what happens is, like in most professions, the people in that profession know that there's been a mistake, but 99% of the customers, i.e. the ones listening, don't. But if you like flick a CD off that's playing live to air, it's very obvious, you acknowledge it. I look at those guys talking and I go, yep, they've flicked the CD off. They can't not acknowledge it. It's so bad. Kind of pretending it didn't happen would be worse than being critical of dear leader Chewie.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Chippy needs to just ride the fact that Luxon is not good at this. He can even take that phrase, I don't mind, I won't charge a fee. Because it's transparent. Like, people might still think that National's on the right path, but I think that is eroding massively. Colloquially, or anecdotally, I should say, I see that here with voters that were very pro him coming in. They don't like him. He's not authentic.
I think that's because they were anti-Labor rather than pro him. I think that's what you're saying.
I think even that they were pro-national.
Yeah.
And at that point, like when they were talking about Luxon coming in, he was always from day one mentioned as a potential or a likely leader. And then he comes in and this is what we get. And we go, who the fuck was saying that this guy was going to be a potential prime minister? There was a comment there that he's a warm and bubbly person. I have never seen that.
Yeah.
In any of the way that he presents in the House, in front of media, the way he talks in interviews, it's not genuine. It's not like how a real person talks. So is there just a completely different Chris Luxon that they have seen that we don't get to see? Now, for all of Hipkins' flaws, I think he is genuine. And I think sometimes his missteps are in his attempts to play the game.
Right.
You know,
right. So he knows how to boardroom. He doesn't know how to ninth floor of the beehive room. So the missteps you're seeing are him going, I need to be ninth floor beehive guy, not boardroom guy. And that's where you're seeing the flubs.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there is so much, like there is a dearth of ammunition that Labor can pull on at this point. They have gutted services that every New Zealander needs to use. And I think if there was an uptick, you know, like if people's grocery bills had halved,
yeah,
you know, you're kind of gone, oh, okay, well, there's a direct correlation here. They've sacked a whole lot of people, but my grocery bill's gone down. My mortgage is more manageable. Look, I can live with some of this, but there isn't. There's been a massive gutting of the public service. Our health service is on its knees. Like there's big societal issues. And I think when you go to the leader and you go, hey, look, what do you think about this? And the first words you're going to get, you could bet the farm on it. Look, Mikey, what I'd say to you is this. Every single time, like it grates on people. It's a vocal tick. It's a crutch that he relies on. And it is always, this is a rehearsed comment. I was ready for this. It's not a natural reaction. It's not a comment that comes from a place of thought or consideration. He's an empty shell. He is corporate. He's a corporate dude. The shit would fly in a boardroom. It does not fly in something where you hear from this guy on every single issue, and all of them, he's not responsible for anything. He doesn't even have a portfolio. He says that his area of responsibility was leading the party and leading the country, but on every single issue, he will defer to another minister. Every single one. And outside of that, you just get platitudes. It's transparent. He promised the most transparent government we've ever seen, and he's delivered it, just not in the way that any of us would have wanted.